My wife insisted we take separate cars to her parents' anniversary party. She said she needed to stop somewhere first to pick up a special gift she had ordered, and it would be easier if I just took our son and met her there. She even smiled as she said it, but there was something in the way her eyes darted away from mine that didn't sit right. It wasn't just a suggestion, it was a firm decision, almost like she had planned it in advance. I didn't want to start an argument over something so small, so I just nodded. As we drove, my 10-year-old son sat in the back seat, unusually quiet, staring out the window like he was lost in thought. Normally, he'd be telling me about a new video game or asking a million questions about random things, but today, he barely said a word. About 10 minutes into the trip, I felt him lean forward, his voice dropping to a whisper. "Dad, Mom doesn't know I found this." I glanced in the rearview mirror and saw him holding out a folded piece of paper. I took it with one hand while keeping the other on the wheel. When I opened it at a red light, my heart skipped. It was a printed hotel reservation for that very afternoon, just a couple of hours before the party. 2 guests. 1 room. The booking was under my wife's name, but the contact phone number wasn't ours. My fingers tightened around the paper as I tried to process it. "Where did you get this?" I asked, keeping my voice as steady as possible. He explained that yesterday he was looking for his tablet and Mom's purse while she was in the shower, and instead of the tablet, he found this paper inside a small white envelope. He didn't know what it meant exactly, but he thought it might be important because Mom quickly took the envelope from him when she caught him holding it and told him not to touch her things. Apparently, she didn't notice the paper had slipped out, and he kept it. I forced a small smile and told him he did the right thing, but my mind was racing. A part of me wanted to believe there was an innocent explanation. Maybe it was work-related, maybe a surprise for me, maybe she was booking a place for her parents as a gift. But the pit in my stomach told me otherwise. We pulled into her parents' driveway, and to my surprise, her car was already there. She was standing on the porch, laughing with her sister, holding a small gift bag. When she saw me, she walked over, gave me a kiss on the cheek, and thanked me for bringing our son. Her tongue was warm, her smile easy, but it felt rehearsed. Inside, the house was full of chatter and music. Her parents were celebrating their 40th anniversary, and everyone was in high spirits. She moved through the room gracefully, chatting with relatives, helping serve food, making it look like she was completely focused on the event. But I noticed little things, the way she kept checking her phone under the table, the quick smile she'd give after reading a message, the distracted way she answered when someone spoke to her. At one point, she excused herself to take a call and stepped outside. I glanced at the clock. 10 minutes passed. 15. When she returned, her cheeks were flushed, her hair slightly windblown. She avoided my gaze and went straight to her mother to help with the cake. I felt like I was watching a movie, only I wasn't sure if it was a drama or a nightmare. I said nothing during the party. I didn't want to ruin her parents' night. But every laugh, every toast, every smile felt hollow because my mind kept circling back to that hotel reservation. When we finally got home that night, I waited until she was in the shower before quietly checking her purse. The envelope was gone. Her phone, which she used to leave lying around, was locked with a passcode I didn't know. She came out of the bathroom humming softly, wearing one of my old t-shirts, looking completely at ease. She slipped into bed beside me, scrolling through her phone for a few minutes before turning off the light. I lay there, pretending to sleep, staring at the ceiling. I could hear her breathing slow and steady, and I wondered how many other nights had been like this. Me lying beside her, thinking everything was fine, while she was living another life I knew nothing about. That reservation sat like a stone in my chest, heavy and impossible to ignore. I knew I couldn't let it go.
The drive to her parents' place felt like an eternity. Ethan sat in the back seat with the shoebox between his hands, his little knuckles pale from holding it so tightly. I kept glancing at him in the rearview mirror, torn between asking more questions and not wanting to spook him. Every now and then, he would look out the window, then meet my eyes in the mirror as if silently asking me what to do. My mind was racing. My wife, Lisa, had insisted on separate cars, saying she needed to run a quick errand before heading to the party. I hadn't thought much of it at the time, but now, with whatever was in that box, the idea started gnawing at me. As we got closer to her parents' neighborhood, Ethan finally broke the silence. "Dad, I think you should look inside before we get there." I pulled into a small, empty parking lot behind a grocery store, killed the engine, and turned around. His expression was dead serious in a way no 10-year-olds should be. I took the box from him slowly, my heart thumping like a drum. When I lifted the lid, my breath caught. Inside were a bunch of small items. Receipts, a hotel key card, and several photographs. The first one I picked up showed Lisa in a restaurant booth, sitting across from a man I didn't recognize. They weren't just sitting. Her hand was on his, their faces close, smiling in a way that wasn't just friendly. My stomach tightened. I flipped through the rest, more pictures, all candid, clearly taken by someone else. Some were outside what looked like a hotel, others in that same restaurant on different days. Then there were the receipts, all signed by Lisa, all for dinners, drinks, and overnight stays. My hands were trembling, but I forced myself to stay calm for Ethan. "Where did you get this?" I asked. He shifted in his seat. "I was in Mom's car yesterday when she went into the store. I found it under the passenger seat. I thought maybe it was something for you." His voice cracked at the end. I swallowed hard, pushing down the wave of rage and heartbreak rising in me. My wife was cheating. And not just a one-time mistake. This looked like it had been going on for a while. The dates on the receipts stretched back months. The hotel keycard had a date printed on it from just last week. I knew I couldn't just storm into her parents' anniversary party and blow everything up. Not yet. Not in front of her family, not with Ethan there. But I also knew I couldn't pretend I didn't know. "Ethan," I said, my voice steady even though I felt anything but. "Thank you for telling me. You did the right thing. But I need you to not say anything about this to anyone right now, okay?" He nodded, his eyes wide and worried. I closed the box, slid it under my seat, and pulled back onto the road. As we approached her parents' house, I saw her car already parked outside. She was standing in the driveway, chatting with her sister, looking every bit the loving, devoted wife she pretended to be. The sight made me feel sick. She smiled when she saw us, but I noticed her eyes flit quickly toward my car, as if checking for something. I gave her a small nod, pretending everything was fine, but inside, my mind was working on overdrive. If this was going to come out, it was going to be on my terms.
The party was in full swing by the time we stepped inside. Her parents' living room was packed with relatives and old friends, the air thick with laughter, clinking glasses, and the smell of roast beef from the kitchen. Lisa slipped into her usual role, hugging her parents, chatting animatedly with cousins, taking glasses of champagne from passing trays. To anyone else, she looked like the perfect daughter, the doting wife, the attentive mother. I stayed close to Ethan at first, not because I didn't trust him, but because I didn't trust myself. Every time I looked at Lisa, I kept seeing flashes of those photographs in my mind. Her hand on that man's, her face lit up with the kind of smile she hadn't given me in months. I needed to hold it together. Losing my temper here would only make her the victim in everyone's eyes. Over the course of an hour, I started drifting into small conversations, but my focus never left her. She was good, I'll give her that. Not once did she seem nervous or distracted. No secret glances at her phone, no unexplained disappearances. But then I noticed something. Every 20 minutes or so, she would excuse herself to check on the cake or help her mom in the kitchen. And each time she would take her phone with her. Once, I followed her quietly, stopping just before the kitchen doorway. I heard her voice, low, quick, and with that strange softness you use when talking to someone you're more than friends with. "No, I can't right now. I'll see you soon, okay?" Then a pause. "Me too." She hung up quickly and walked back toward the living room, still scrolling. Completely unaware I'd been standing just a few steps away. I didn't confront her. Not yet. Instead, I spent the rest of the party in a careful dance, smiling when expected, making small talk, but watching her every move. The more I observed, the clearer it became that she wasn't just having an affair. She was planning around it, building her life around it in ways I hadn't noticed before. That thought cut deeper than anything else. After dinner, while most of the family gathered for speeches, I stepped outside under the pretense of taking a call. In reality, I was calling a number I'd saved months ago but never used, a private investigator recommended by a friend. I didn't even know if I'd go through with it, but after what I'd seen in that box, I needed proof beyond doubt, something undeniable that could stand up to any lies she might throw at me. The PI answered, his voice calm, professional. We spoke briefly, and he agreed to meet me the next day. I went back inside, my mind strangely calmer now that I had a plan. Lisa was laughing with her sister, leaning in close, her hand brushing her hair back in that flirtatious way she probably didn't even realize she did. She caught my eye across the room and smiled. The kind of smile meant to say, "Look how happy we are." I smiled back, but inside, I was already imagining the moment that smile would vanish. Later, as we drove home, Ethan had fallen asleep in the back seat, his head tilted against the window. Lisa hummed softly along with the radio, completely unaware that the life she thought she was controlling had just slipped out of her hands.
The next afternoon, I met the private investigator at a small coffee shop on the edge of town. He was in his late 50s, dressed in a plain jacket and jeans, with eyes that looked like they'd seen every kind of human lie. He didn't waste time on small talk. "You want to know if she's cheating," he said flatly, and I nodded. "I'll need names, photos, a rough idea of her schedule." I slid a small envelope across the table, a printed photo of Lisa, her work hours, her gym routine, and a copy of the photo I'd found in the box, the one where she was with that man in the hotel lobby. He looked at it, raised an eyebrow, then slipped it back into the envelope. "Give me a week," he said. "If she's up to something, I'll find it." The week felt like a month. Every day I watched her, looking for signs I hadn't noticed before. There were plenty. Longer hours at work, sudden plans with friends I'd never met, new clothes she claimed were from a sale, though I'd seen the brand tags before in expensive boutiques. The hardest part was pretending nothing had changed. At dinner, I'd ask about her day, and she'd smile and tell me about office politics or errands, never once slipping. But every now and then, her phone would buzz, and she'd glance at it with that same tiny smirk I'd seen in the photos. On Friday evening, the investigator called. His voice was as steady as before, but I could hear something in it, the sound of someone who has found exactly what they were looking for. "I've got everything you need," he said. "We should meet in person." We arranged to meet at his office the next morning. I barely slept that night, lying in bed next to Lisa as she scrolled through her phone. I turned my back to her, but I could feel the light from the screen, could almost hear the little taps of her fingers sending someone else a message meant for me once upon a time. The investigator's office was a cramped space above a hardware store, smelling faintly of coffee and dust. He had a folder waiting for me, thick with photos, printed texts, and notes. He opened it and slid the first few pages toward me. There she was, Lisa, stepping out of her car in front of a downtown hotel. The date and timestamp showed it was Tuesday afternoon, when she had told me she had an extra meeting. Another photo. Her walking into the lobby with the same man from the picture I'd found in the box, their hands brushing together before she leaned into him and laughed. More photos followed. Dinners, walks, a day trip to a nearby city. And then there were the screenshots. Text messages between them, pulled from somewhere I didn't ask about. Messages that made my chest tighten. "Last night was amazing. I can't wait to see you again. I wish we could just run away." I sat there staring at them, feeling strangely calm. I think I already knew all of it in my bones. The proof just made it official. The investigator closed the folder. He said, "You can use this however you want. Divorce lawyer, confrontation, whatever. But don't sit on it too long. People like her, they don't stop until they're forced to." I left the office with the folder under my arm and drove aimlessly for an hour before ending up at the park. I sat on a bench, flipping through the photos again, each one a little nail in the coffin of the life I thought we had. By the time I got home, I had made my decision. I wasn't going to scream or beg or demand explanations. I was going to end it on my terms. Lisa was in the kitchen, making coffee. She smiled when she saw me, as if nothing in the world was wrong. And for now, I smiled back, because she didn't know yet that tomorrow, everything would change.
The next morning, I woke up before Lisa and just sat there for a while, watching her sleep. There was a time when that sight filled me with warmth, but now it felt like looking at a stranger. I got up, showered, and left without saying anything. My first stop was a lawyer's office downtown. I handed over the folder from the investigator, and within minutes, the lawyer was outlining my options. The words irreconcilable differences and marital misconduct sounded cold and clinical, but they were exactly what I needed. I signed the initial paperwork, feeling like each stroke of the pen was cutting one more tie between us. When I got back home, Lisa was on the couch scrolling through her phone. She looked up and smiled, that same practiced smile she'd given me for months. "Hey, where'd you go so early?" she asked. I set the folder down on the coffee table and opened it so the first photo, her entering the hotel with him, was facing her. Her smile froze. She stared at the picture, then at me, then back at the picture again. "It's not what it looks like," she said automatically, the oldest lie in the book. "Really?" I asked quietly. "Because it looks exactly like what it is. And there's plenty more in there if you need a reminder." She reached for the folder, but I closed it and slid it away from her. "Don't bother explaining. I'm done." For the first time in months, I saw her lose control. Her voice cracked, she got defensive, then tried to cry, then to apologize, all in the span of 2 minutes. But every word just bounced off me. I wasn't angry anymore. I was free. "I've already spoken to a lawyer," I told her. "We'll figure out the details, but you need to start looking for somewhere else to stay." She looked at me like I just punched her, and maybe in her mind I had. She'd probably expected me to yell, to break down, to give her a chance to talk me into forgiving her. But the calm, the finality, that scared her more than anything. Over the next few weeks, the divorce process moved forward. She tried reaching out a few times, sending long messages about how she'd made a mistake, how we could work through it. I didn't reply. I'd already blocked her number and email by the time she moved out. It wasn't easy, not at first. Nights were quiet in a way that felt heavy. I kept catching myself reaching for the phone to tell her something small, something stupid, before remembering she wasn't my person anymore. But slowly the heaviness faded. I started running in the mornings again, meeting up with friends I'd neglected, even taking a weekend trip by myself just because I could. One afternoon, months later, I was sitting in a little cafe reading when someone asked if they could take the seat across from me. She was about my age, warm smile, eyes that made me feel at ease immediately. We talked for hours without realizing the time, and for the first time in a long time, I felt that spark again. Not the desperate kind that makes you ignore red flags, but the steady, genuine kind that grows without forcing it. Looking back now, I don't think the investigator just gave me proof of Lisa's betrayal. He gave me a way out, a push to reclaim my life before I wasted any more of it on someone who didn't value it. And walking away was the best decision I ever made.